Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Chris Finn, and I'm excited today to have back with me the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Granato of AMG Golf. If you don't know, now you know. He's here, and we're going to have some fun today. Mike, welcome back. Excited having the show again.
Great to be back, man. It was a lot of fun the first time. Look forward to today.
So since we had the first episode, and if you guys have not checked out that episode, definitely do so. We'll put the link right in the show notes so you can go find that episode. But since we had you guys on, we actually had a player come down and see you guys. And when I say he was excited, like he legitimately talked about it for like every day that he was here for at least half the time that he was here. He had the AMG swag. I mean, he was very excited. He goes down. He's a basically trying to make it professionally. Goes down, sees you guys, and so really wanted to kind of talk through it because I thought it was a cool case where we could talk about the body swing connection, what we have been working on with him physically, what you guys saw from a swing perspective, because we haven't really had the opportunity to talk to an instructor necessarily about him in particular. So I was really curious kind of what you guys saw when he came down and kind of what you guys thought the things that he needed to work on were, and kind of start from there.
Well, T.O., we'll call him T.O.
That is how he goes. That is what he goes by.
Yeah. I think part of his excitement was he just happened to be, I think is the first time he came down, I think his mom was with him. And they just happened to stay near the best pizza joint, maybe in Florida. So that had to be part of the excitement. Yeah, he was just like a lot of really high achieving golfers, and that he had just gotten down the wrong road or just misapplied some information and just got himself kind of wound up. And he told us about the work that you guys have been doing and getting some of his physical limitations set free, right? Good way to say it. And we kind of helped him with some of his swing concepts. A lot of it had to do with how he was trying to pivot in the swing. He had kind of a restricted shoulder turn, not intentionally, but that's what it wound up doing. So we just got his shoulder turn more freed up by not diving that left shoulder down and not trying to get so kind of compressed in the backswing. And when you have an athlete like T.O. and a guy that can really generate some clubhead speed, all you're doing is just kind of cutting the reins off a lot of that. And he had talked about it felt more at the end of the session. It felt more like he did when he didn't know much about the golf swing than it did. I mean, I'm a cautionary tale about that. When you're an athlete, you kind of just find a way to swing like an athlete, and then you go get golf proof, and you lose a lot of that athleticism. Sometimes, you'll hit it better and you improve, and sometimes you'll just lose your athleticism and start hitting it worse. And that's super frustrating when you know what good shots are like, and you're just, for whatever reason, not able to do it as often as you need to.
Well, I thought what was interesting to me was when the kind of months leading up to him going down to see you guys, and we'd look at all his rotary center mobilities, we look at his strength, his power numbers, and we have a algorithm that we've developed where we can say, hey, based on these metrics, your swing potential, and for him it was like 121, or it was significant, but he was like stuck at like the mid-teens, like he like could not, like, and he'd try to go all out, and we'd say, all right, gamer speed, and I don't know, 114, 115. All right, man, go as hard as you can. And it'd be like 112.
Really?
And I was like, it would go down sometimes, right? There was a disconnect, and this isn't just happened to him. We see this across the spectrum with lots of golfers where, we had an event this past weekend. We had these guys were in their 60s and 70s, and we do a swing. The initial testing day one is, hey guys, just swing your gamer speed, 92, 93, whatever. And then, all right, guys, now go swing as hard as you can. And you see like 88, 86. Because
Yeah.
it's like no idea how to generate speed. And it was weird having seen, I've worked with T.O. since he was 12 and seen him grow up. And he's always been that athletic kid that you were just mentioning. Like, I'm assuming it's not the first time you've unlocked somebody, for lack of a better term, like that. But like, what are the elements that you kind of look at and then see and then kind of trigger that particularly for those golfers listening right now who are like, That's me.
Yeah. In fact, I was just having a conversation before we got on the air here with Sean, my partner in AMG,
Hmm.
and I was talking to a PhD yesterday, and he was saying that in the information that he's seen and his experience, that tour players, the players that we're used to seeing on TV every week, are kind of operating at about a 95 to 85% efficiency. Like, so there's not a ton of room for big leaps and improvement, right? I mean, they're all trying to
Hmm.
get better, but they're already operating at efficiency, or we wouldn't know who they were. He said for everybody else, you start to get down into the 75 to 65 range. And when he was saying that, I mean, T.O. came to mind because you can just look at him and see, you see enough athletes walk through the door, you can almost tell how they walk through the door that, okay, this guy
Hmm.
should be able to produce some speed. And when you see where their limitations are, and then when you see when they try to effort more and even less of it gets funneled into
Hmm.
clubhead speed, you're like, okay, we got a real issue. And you can tell that when they're warming up. So typically what'll happen when a player comes in, they'll warm up and then we'll start suiting him up in gears. And one of the first things that we look for, we always have a few metrics when we look at the data on gears as the player is kind of hitting his first few shots. We always have the spine angle on because if you tilt that spine angle in a certain way, it almost doesn't matter what else you do, you're going to be restricted. And we put the shoulder rotation on, chest rotation, pelvis rotation, and right off the bat, he just had a spine tilt number that was just severely limiting. And when you hear them describe the shots that they are hitting that they don't like, their big miss, like it completely meshed with the spine angles that we were seeing. He had a spine that would kick, the bottom of the spine would kick to the right, top of the spine would kick to the left as he was trying to generate speed. That's a real steep pattern to get in. And his
Hmm.
miss was that steep ball, which could be the left ball, or you get tired of that left ball, then it's going right. So it's going to be a two-way miss when that
Hmm.
happens.
Yeah, and that was definitely, what he was describing that was occurring on the golf course. So, and is that one of the more common things that you see with guys? Like if we were to take the TO specific case and generalize it out to everybody listening, like what are the specifically around this case, right? You have a golfer who's trying to go faster, and the harder they try, the slower they go.
Right.
Is that are there other trends that you see too, or is it typically always just that spine tilting towards the target, the top of the spine tilting towards the target, kind of that reverse spine angle?
That's a big one. And I would say that's been a trend that we've noticed in the last 5 years or so, where the
Interesting.
idea of trying to get the shoulders from a down the line perspective pointing down. Some players tell us they're trying to get the shoulders pointing at the ball, which we've
Hmm.
never seen a good player do. But trying to get those shoulders steep I mean, you know this. I feel like I'm telling my professor in college what he's teaching, but when you crank the spine in one direction, you limit its mobility in the other directions,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what he was doing. And we see that it's such a common pattern that, okay, if I want to generate speed and I've got my spine really in a position that doesn't allow me to turn well, now I've got to start to throw my arms behind me and bend my elbow a bunch to try to get a swing that's long enough to give me enough time to generate the speed. Skilled players can make that work to a certain extent.
Hmm.
Lesser skilled players, it goes off the rails quick. And we had a golf school, it was either our last or the time before our last golf school. Every player in the school was doing that exact same thing.
No
Every
way.
player. And they had
Really?
learned it. They were all from different parts of the country. So they didn't learn it from one source. They learned it from all different sources. And the result was the same. It was brutal.
And where does that come from? And you guys obviously you've been seeing it for a little while. I'm assuming you guys are intelligent and you're always looking for more information. I'm sure you guys have gone on a hunt to find where does this come from. Like, has there been Is it just a misunderstanding of information that's being taught? Is it a case of the YouTube era of golf and people just applying the wrong things at the wrong time to the wrong person? What do you see?
Yeah, I think the YouTube era, certainly. I think there's a methodology that's out there that really preaches shoulder down, shoulder down. I think, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was the poorer players. You would see them really raise that right shoulder up to kind of turn like that. And I think this is an overcorrection for that.
Overcorrection. That
It's
would make
like,
sense.
now we see more hookers and pull hookers than we do just flat out slices. I mean, this
Yeah.
slice fix has been online now for 20 years. Now we're dealing with the other. So it's just probably a combination of all of that. And then when you left to
Yeah.
your own devices, and most golfers don't practice with feedback or video, so they're just feeling something different, and you know how that can turn out given enough time.
Yeah, feeling real sometimes don't
Yeah.
match. Actually, more not
Yeah.
sometimes, most of the times. That was interesting with To because knowing his history, particularly with his shoulders and his hip, his rotary centers, historic. I mean, he's you know compared to the 65-year-old listening right now, he's not tight,
Right.
but relative to our long drive guys who are swinging 150 miles an hour, he's swinging. He has the potential to be swinging 120, mid one. I don't think there's any reason why he could not cruise in the low to mid 120s. But to go that fast, to do it without injury, there is an increased level requirement of shoulder external rotation. Think of throwing a baseball for everyone listening, like when they cock their arm back, or quarterback throw. When they cock their arm back, that's external rotation. On that trail side in particular, obviously for delivering the golf club to where it needs to be delivered, through impact. But we found in our research too is the lead arm, and this is important for you, and that left shoulder. If that shoulder is does not have good external rotation, that's a huge speed limiter that we've seen. So it's interesting because we've seen the trail shoulder statistically correlate, more towards kind of impacting your world instructionally in terms of how they're going to deliver the club down. It doesn't necessarily impact the clubhead speed world, but the lead shoulder, if it's limited, will definitely be, put a governor on how fast the person can go without hurting themselves. So it's interesting to hear that he had that reverse spine angle. He was naturally a bit more steep, and then you also knowing physically those were kind of his body's tendencies too. Granted, he was a good athlete and he could make it work as much as he possibly could. I guess you put all that together, it starts to kind of paint this picture, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And it's funny you mentioned, we were talking about it before we started recording, that, I've had shoulder surgery on both shoulders, and the left one was the worst. And that was my first one. And I never thought about speed necessarily coming from that joint. Just was always able to generate clubhead speed. So I just took one of those things where you just take it for granted. Like Michael Jordan probably never thought about how to jump high. He just can jump high, right?
He just
Right.
did. Yeah, exactly.
And not that I'm trying to equate myself to Michael Jordan for the folks listening.
I think it's a very appropriate analogy.
I probably had a better free throw shooting percentage than he did, but that's about it. Until
I might come close on layup making percentage. That'd be about the only thing I'd come close on.
breakaway layups.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
coming back, once I was cleared to start swinging again, I had to go get all my shafts, everything replaced, because I was like, there was no strength there. And I was like, I all of a sudden don't know how to generate speed because I had used that lever so much and now it was gone. It was like, oh, wake up call. I need to start looking at that joint and how golfers apply that joint throughout the swing. And I could not agree more with what you said. It's funny you talk about TO coming in, and Sean and I always have we always say if you're going to build a golfer in a lab, this is what you would want that golfer to look like: broad shoulders, narrow hips, thin chest, not a big bulky chest. And he fits the prototype for swinging a golf
100%.
club absolutely perfectly. So when you see a player physically that looks like that and they're struggling, there's going to be some good room for improvement there.
Yeah, and since he's been back, he has seen big improvements for sure. But I think what I'd love to do is talking about this I want to dive more into this reverse spine angle, or what you're saying that you're starting to see a bigger trend in, and it sounds like how would that come from the idea and then create, I guess, more of this hook culture that you're seeing, where not as many slices. Where is that coming from in that bigger trend? Obviously, the overcorrection, and everybody and their mother has made a how to fix your slice video. But what's the change? And biomechanically, how does that cause that?
So I think most golfers, especially if you're kind of into improving your golf swing, which is by and far our audience. We're not seeing golfers that play in their company scramble once a year. We're seeing golfers that are playing all the time and trying to improve. And I think most of those golfers are aware of that there's side bend, some extension, in the spine as they rotate. I just think those movements are being way overdone. So, again, goes back to, okay, if it was like growing up, I would go to every month, be there waiting on the Golf Digest to be delivered. I would try everything that came out that month. Some things I was already overdoing, but I was going to do more, and something, it's just
more.
like I had no way of knowing if that was the right thing for me. So I think we hear information that we may not have thought of before, so I'll try that in my swing. And then, the right combination of information applied either correctly or incorrectly can overdo things. So I think by and large, it's an overdoing of what happens in every good swing. You don't have to try to side bend. You just have to basically be in a forward posture, set up, and turn. You're going to have side bend. You're going to have all those things. So when golfers overdo those things, so now you've got usually an over of back extension, over of side tilt. Now from a face-on view, your spine really starts to tilt. Make sure I do this right to the camera. Toward the top of it, towards the target too much.
Right,
Now, better players have enough club face awareness that they'll throw that in reverse and really slam it back the other way in the downswing. Those are your big kind of overhookers, overdrawers.
Got it. So the top of their spine is tilted
Right.
towards the target at the top, and then they time retilting it.
Well, I
backwards.
wouldn't even say time it. They've just got to
through.
drop the hammer and throw it in reverse the other way, right?
Just throw it.
Because if you
Got it.
don't, this is the trend now with higher handicap players. If you don't, and you start making a downswing turn around that forward tilted spine, now you've got everything coming out steep and across and low pull hooks. That's probably the most
So
common
you're gonna
shot.
have an extreme left
Yes.
path, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes
So
a
you've
ton
got
of sense.
both of those balls are going to go left. The better player hates that shot, and the poorer player, the higher handicap player, is getting robbed with distance because the ball's not getting in the air. It's there, so they just start aiming farther and farther right to play it, and then it just snowballs very badly.
So that's your playing partner who's aimed 45
Yes.
degrees into
Yes,
the woods,
right?
trying and hits it center of the fairway. Got it.
Talking about how he squared it up on that one, right? Yeah,
Exactly. I've timed it perfect. I got it. I figured it out, guys.
yeah.
So then the reverse of that is the better player who then throws that spine backwards. That's going to then create, I guess, a more neutral to right path,
But
or
outside path for sure. Yeah, in out path.
Yeah, and then it got it, and then
Yeah,
that's how.
and those
one
players,
hook it back
right
into it.
hip, right lower back, sometimes right shoulder movements, complaining about, because it's a heck of a move. We've seen spines as much as 22, 23 degrees tilted towards the target, and then as much. We had one player was a freshman in college, so no physical issues, and they were going to have to take the next year off because of back issues, because they went from 19 degrees tilted towards the target to 19 degrees tilted away from the target at impact. So that's a 38 degree reversal of the spine angle in less than a quarter of a second.
I think we need to come up with an. I think X factor is
Right.
well understood, right? Hip and shoulder, or X factor stretch. We got to call it. What's that, like spine tilt stretch?
Yeah.
The difference from the top of the swing to impact.
And typical
That is
for
nuts.
a tour player is
And
like
that's- and
100 degrees at impact. so 12 degrees is normal.
Yeah.
They were 19 with a seven
Yeah.
iron, way more with a driver. So, yeah, it just gets, I mean, you can't throw the car in reverse that quickly and have a sense of what's the right amount. You're just trying to reverse what you did in the first three quarters of the golf swing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would just tell like everyone listening, like thinking of your like just your discs as like a jelly donut between your spine, and it's like think of squeezing one side of the jelly donut at the top of your swing, and then squeeze it really hard on the other side as you come down through impact. And then all
Yeah.
the musculature that's going to get pinched and aggravated and whatnot, and then layer on top of that for the average golfer over the age of 40, 93% of you don't have good rotary mobility. So now you're even going to throw more lateral movement through impact because you can't rotate. That's just going to jack you up even more, and that's why
Yeah.
we have so much back pain in
Well, then
golf.
you
That
add
makes so
into it
much sense.
the trying to get weight forward on top of that. So that lower part is sliding out from underneath you as you're throwing it in reverse. And the compression on that right side is brutal.
I'm just picturing a cartoon with half of the lower body going towards the target and the other half separating and going
Yeah.
away from the target. This is athletic, correct? So, so what other? I'm just curious as you guys are digging, because you guys obviously are just one of the leaders with gears and looking at the kinematics and how the body's moving. Is there another kind of trend similar to that you've seen over the last number of years that's becoming a little more prevalent that maybe you didn't see 5, 10, 15 years ago? Or even one that's withstood the stand
I
of
would
time?
say, and this may be related. I haven't thought about it as much. Being related in this is we see quite a few golfers now. So if you think of a right-handed golfer from a face-on camera view, and if you put like a
Mm-hmm.
dot over their left knee and left hip joint, so not like the outside of the hip, but on the joint. So left knee and left hip joint. We're seeing a lot of players in the
Okay.
backswing move the knee more inward than their hip joint. So really internally rotating that left knee relative to the pelvis in the backswing. So when they
Interesting.
transition and start down, that lead knee is pinched in and under the pelvis. So there's no lever there. There's no brake there to stop that pelvis from sliding down the fairway.
So the only way they're going to correct. So yeah, and so the only way they're going to correct that is if and I'm
Correct,
assuming it's
correct.
bent,
About
right? Yeah,
about
because
doubles the knee
they've
flex, which is pretty
done it right.
normal.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's the only way. Yeah. So no, the only way to correct that is they have to apply a massive amount of negative lead side horizontal ground reaction force with a lot of vertical ground reaction force to lock the knee, like basically to straighten the knee. Right. So if you think about it like a vertical leap, basically somebody is standing on one leg, bending their knee
Yes,
and bending it inwards, which is how you tear an ACL.
very
Just if
true.
anyone's ever watched someone
Yes.
land in basketball, that's how you tear an ACL. Basically, you have to correct that where you unrotate or externally rotate that lead side and then drive it up. But because everything's moving towards the target, you have to apply horizontal force away from the target to allow you to post. And then hope to God that you have the hip internal rotation to actually clear with the toe heel torsional
Yeah.
force and rotate it up. So, so I'm assuming when you see that, like, what do you then? You see that at the top of the swing. What are you then? Are you seeing like better athletes
No.
being able to recover from that
Mm-mm.
and actually do okay? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
so
you're
extreme they can't
spending.
even
So
recover.
we stress for
Wow.
our
Yeah.
golfers that you've got a 1 second. Like everybody has a 1 second shot clock. You don't want it to be a 1.5 second shot clock, right?
Yeah.
You don't want the swing to be slower. You want it to keep it around that 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't spend 3/4 of that 1 second getting into that position and expect to get out, recover, and get into a good position in a quarter of a second. So they'll typically just outslide impact. So, really soft left knee at impact,
Mm-hmm.
usually a really big rotation
Mm-hmm.
inhibitor. And, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
right side, lumbar spine, right hip injuries, pain. See a lot of left knee pain from that as well. If you compare that to what, say, someone like Roy McIlroy here, have got his gears data on the screen. In the backswing, he's going to pull his pelvis. So think his belt buckle. He's going to pull his belt buckle away from his left knee. So now when he transitions, starts down, he has that angle still there that he can shift into, and it's going to stabilize that entire downswing. So just thinking of doing that has made a big difference, because most golfers are under the impression if I just turn more in the backswing, I'll hit farther in the downswing.
Well, I think it's a it's my podcast. I can say whatever I want. I guess it's a bastardization of understanding what
Such a good
rotation
point.
is, right? And so I think what I'm going to guess that you guys are measuring is that when you see that lead knee collapse in and the hip move, like inside that hip, there's probably that reverse spine tilt excessive, and there's probably more of a lateral move into the right hip instead of true. Only reason why that belt buckle is going to move away from that hip
Correct.
is if he's internally rotating
Correct.
to the stress side, like actually rotating. And so when we see that left knee, I'm assuming for you guys that's a trigger of this person doesn't rotate. Like what would be really cool is taking every one of the golfers you've had that you measure that way, measure what their hip rotation is, and then like the way I would think about it is if they fail the hip rotation, it's not your fault, man. You can't rotate. We got to fix your hip. If you pass the rotation, it's 100% your fault. You don't rotate.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? But for the golfer, then it's, for me, I always find it that it's freeing for them, that it's like,
Right.
hey man, like you just actually can't rotate. So that's as good as you're going to do. Good news, we can fix that. And then if you still do that, well, now you just suck at rotating. We just got to teach you how to rotate, and that's a different solution. I'm assuming you guys kind of see similar.
We always want to know,
elements to that
what are
where
you trying to do? Like, what is this player trying to do?
It's such a great question that no one asks.
You know, invariably we'll hear different versions of, I'm just trying to get more turn in the backswing so I can, I'm talking about golfers 50 and over, and more so I can hit it farther in downswing. And we've captured one golfer in their 70 who had 70 degrees of pelvis rotation. Now, it was unuseful because of how he did it, right? Like I can do, we were messing around the other day at gears, and I got almost 90 degrees of hip rotation. Now, there's no way I could put club on the ball any kind of useful manner, because I raised my posture up, really flatten my shoulder, just all the things you would do, just move the pelvis that far. But if you do some version of that, you're going to rotate yourself out of a position to make a downswing in. And when you put golfers in the right tilts, which is what we were talking about earlier, and then have them turn in that framework, which includes that internal rotation into the trail leg, now they're going to kind of fall around that 40 to 50 degree range, which is totally recoverable and gives you enough time to get open in that quarter of a second downswing. So a lot of times from the golfers that we see, it's just the concept of, all right, I need more rotation in my pelvis. So what's one thing I can do? I can throw my left knee across my body. That's going to give me more rotation. So
I think people don't have access to gears.
Yeah, well, I think most
Correct.
people don't have access to gears. So like when they see you guys, it's like the first time. So what their concept, and I think this is an important takeaway for everyone listening. Most of your understandings of rotation come from two-dimensional video. Or I guess it's 3D, but it's face on or down the line video. And we know by you can look at the data on like AI single camera capture and its accuracy
Right.
of rotation. It ain't good, right? Yet it will be. And so the human eye, it's really hard to see that third dimension of rotation when really the video is good for single planar. And so I firmly believe that's where a lot of the misunderstanding comes from, is people will watch a YouTube video or Rory, and they don't know what to look at, and they don't understand the biomechanics of, his belt buckle's moving because he's rotating his acetabulum on the femur, and that's why it's going. but they're just trying to make it look like the video, and they're just going to do it however they can. And so that's where the ACL tear knee with the spine backwards, right? It's like, oh, it feels, and this is the hard point. We talked about feeling real. You say, well, if you don't like what you're doing,
Right.
then what the new thing you should do should feel weird. Well, guess what feels weird? My knee about to tear my ACL, my spine back, so my disc is going to explode, right? Like, oh, it feels weird. Must be good. But look, my belt buckle's where Rory's is.
That's such a true statement. It's the camera sees rotation the worst, or distorts rotation, or however you want to say it. And the one camera 3D apps, that's their worst feature because of the camera sees it the worst. And, most of us have only seen our swing from a third person static camera position that doesn't rotate with the body. I think if there ever comes a time where you can have, the little consumer drones can kind of do it now where, you just put it on track me and I'm walking around the yard or on the golf cart and it'll follow. If we ever get to a point where, put a spot on my chest or on my belt buckle and have it track that within the motion of the swing, I think a lot of heads would explode about what actually takes place relative to the other parts of your body. But yeah, that whole let's go.
You know what we need, Mike? I have a business idea for us. We're gonna partner with a reverse
Yes.
like a car company,
Yes.
like a reverse camera. Now you can like see the whole car as you're
That'd be
reversing.
so good.
We just need that for the human
We
body
did.
in the
With
golf
gears,
swing.
we
That's
can-
what we need.
I thought, and we had a couple people request this, like, show us the golf swing through the eyes of the golfer. What should we be seeing? And you don't see anything. You see the club kind of pass by it, take away, and that's it. It's like, okay, so your eyes aren't really useful in the golf swing as far as your motion. So, but that's a brilliant idea. A little backup camera.
All right. So if you're listening and you work for any car manufacturer,
And you don't want to make any
Mike and
money.
I need you. We need your help. Yeah. We're putting up the bat signal. It's a
it is
total charity. You're going to
That's
lose
right.
money, but we'll be excited to help do it.
On that line of
But what I guess just on that line of discussion, what is any other common things you see when people coming in with their video? I'm sure you get swing videos all the time. And just the common misunderstandings that people get from looking at their videos and understanding what the heck they're
I would
seeing.
say probably the golfers. I'm thinking in reverse of this. Like when we have a golfer in gears and we're able to show them what moves relative to the other body parts. One thing that always, it's like a light bulb moment for them or something that they thought was the exact opposite, is how the arms move relative to their body in the swing. I was doing an online lesson this morning and was showing the golfer in gears that, like, if you just put a dot on your left elbow, the center of that elbow joint, from address to the top of the backswing, the PGA Tour average actually is 0.0 inches for how deep that elbow moves from where it starts. Meaning from a down the line perspective, right? You've got a dot on that left elbow, your lead elbow. At the top of the swing, the PGA Tour average is 0.0, meaning that left elbow does not go deeper than where it starts. And we've got golfers every single day that are trying to get everything in the backyard because that's what it looks like happens on video because you can't see the rotation.
Yeah.
So it's things like that anything rotationally or has a tie into rotation, which is a lot in the golf swing, it is greatly distorted with video.
yeah, and I would have to imagine.
Yeah, and I would have to imagine what we were talking, the reverse spine angle, like a lot of the things that you're seeing now. The slice has been around since
Tweed coats. How could you
beginning of
not
golf,
hit a slice wearing
right?
a tweed coat?
But the technology, exactly. But now, figure we've had
2007 iPhone
smartphones,
anyway. 2007.
15
Yeah.
years. When did they come out? 2010-ish.
Guys are going to use them on
Seven,
the range
yeah,
for probably, I don't know, 10
seven.
years.
But like usable, where like guys are going to use them on the range, probably I don't know, 10 years or whatever. And so I have to imagine the mass adoption's probably happened the last decade or so. And then you couple that with the video instruction available online, and I would imagine that's where probably it would make sense. A lot of the challenges that golfers
Yeah, and
are
then
having
just on
trying to
that,
self-diagnose
the
is coming from.
very, I say basic, but the very important step of where do you put the camera?
That's my favorite.
That's my favorite. You get 3 videos. One's from like the knee height,
Yep.
one's from the hip height, one's
Yep.
15 degrees off to the side. And you're like, I think my hands are a little inside. You're like, dude, I
Right.
don't know. Sure,
So,
maybe.
I mean,
Move the camera.
yeah,
Are they
well,
still inside? I
first
don't
time I
know.
ever recorded a swing, I just thought as long as you're visible, it's in a good spot. And years later, we know that that's far from the case.
Yeah.
My favorites here on the range.
My favorite's here on the range, and there's 2 guys down. Say, hey man, can you video me? And you see the buddy grab the phone, and you watch, and I'll watch video, and let's say he's standing directly behind, but just kind of holding it chest height. Swings, hits it, guy looks at, oh okay, all right, I'm gonna do one more. Can you film me again? And this time he squats down and he's like hip level and off the side.
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
now
we
he's like,
have
all right, let's
that.
compare the 2.
I mean, tour players
Just
aren't
like,
immune from that. It's gotten a lot better the last few years, but yeah, we would have, hey, this is my swing when I was in high school. I played great in college. This is my swing. And you see I was like, bro, I can only tell the color of shirt you're wearing accurately from these videos. It's like, it's kind of the burden of having these new tools is how to use them correctly, or they could be really dangerous.
100%. Well, and speaking of
We
getting the
try.
right tools, you guys obviously have all of them at your facility. What's the latest? I know you guys. Do you have openings for the rest of the year? The golf schools. I mean, I know those are just killer for you guys from an experience and just getting to interact with you and Sean personally, and massive value. Obviously, T.O.'s gotten massive value from you, but what are there still openings for that? How do people get involved with you guys and get down to
Our golf
actually
schools
get
are
the right technology
probably the
and get
most
the right
fun
answers from you
thing
guys?
for Sean and I to do, because we get to spend 3 days with 4 golfers. And you're not just seeing us during dinner and we come in and shake hands. Like, we're with you every swing. Get 2 gear sessions, putting on the golf course, all that. So we really get to see a complete view of your game, how you think on the course, how you move on the course, and relate that to all the data. And then each player has their own TrackMan bay with video. So everything you do is recorded and calibrated, because we want to know what it is you're doing so you can make, we say it's like learning in a microwave. And you need to know how to practice. That was always the thing when I would go to golf schools or even in other sports. Okay, the school was great, but I don't know what to do when the coach isn't there telling me what to do. We make it a point that we have a year-long follow-up afterwards, all of that. So because we only do 4 players at a time, obviously the schools fill up fast. We do have some openings in the fall and into the winter, but summer's gone. I think we have, I think that summer filled up not too long ago, but the fall ones are still available. So if you think that might be a good environment for you and you want to, some players are disappointed that they still have to listen to us on day 2 and 3. They would probably rather just have us show up for lunch. But it's a lot of fun. Then the unintentional part of that is a lot of our golfers in the schools will stay in contact with each other after the schools, because it's like a little group environment, a little class. They get to learn each other's swings, and we all are working on the same things. Even tour players, there's only a few things in the golf swing to work on. So it's a lot of fun.
That's cool. Yeah, we've started doing our in-person events on the fitness side, and we see the same thing, guys. The most common, we wrap up at the end and say, all right, any questions?
Yeah.
Are you going to give us the contact information of the other guys so we can get together and play some golf? Because we get, you get a couple guys from Texas and playing up all the Texas guys. Oh, yeah, he's only like 3 hours. We're going to meet and play. All right, cool. Yeah, that is such a cool, unintended consequence, as you said. I think it's a good way to put it. But yeah, no, and guys, I think the coolest thing about going to these, this is I don't get paid for this. This is a shameless plug. Just for when you go down to work with guys like Mike and Sean, we've been talking a lot about the video is good, but I think the cool thing, because you guys have gears and your understanding of everything
On your video,
biomechanically, and being
that's
able to
what it
actually
actually
tell them,
means.
Right.
hey, when you see that on your video, that's what it actually means. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that we always try to get people when they come on the physical side is, hey, let's teach you how to use your own like DIY tools the correct way. Now that you've gotten to see it on the real good equipment, what it actually means when you go home and you can take it away. And I think that's obviously something you guys have done massively for TO. He's in here on our sims all the time, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, well, this means this and that means that, and this. I'm like, looks like you learned something. Good, man. That's awesome. And I think that was one of the coolest things for me, just, I guess, completing the circle back to TO. It wasn't just the lessons and helping him with the swing. It was the absolute education that he got.
I'm glad you brought that up, because
so happy
we'll
for
get
him,
that
and
question a
just
lot.
helped
Like,
him
okay,
game-wise.
if I do an online lesson with you guys or I send you my swing, obviously we're not using gears. How can you look at video? We've only ever done gears with video running. So partly because we need to train our own eyes to know what the 3D says, and then what does that look like on video. And then for the player like TO, he's got to know what that looks like when he leaves, because he can't take gears with him. So he needs to understand for his swing, and this anybody that comes sees us will get this. What does my swing look like on video relative to my 3D data? What do I need to look for on video and ignore the rest? Because if you know what to look for, man, your practice sessions become so much more valuable.
Yep.
Mm.
100%. And we do the same thing on force plates. It's the same thing. Like with the whole ACL position, torn ACL knee. Like if somebody's in, we had Sean Johnson, reigning world long drive champion, was doing a little talk for our guys at the end of the accelerator event that we had here last weekend. He's hitting balls, and so we're recording him. He doesn't know it, but we're recording him on the force plates and filming him. And we at the end, we're like, hey man, like you see how your knee does. His knee actually goes out, so like he does not drive up. He's got another 5 miles an hour in him easy. But it being able, because similarly we're always looking at ground reaction forces with the video on. You start to draw these connections, just like you guys do with ground reaction forces and with kinematics. And to your point, when you do it enough, you start to almost see like, oh, well, when your knee's bent inwards like that and you're bent this way, you're going to have decreased forces, or this is what's going to happen with the club. And then you can start to, I think that's the biggest benefit of going to a school like this that you guys run, is that people can walk away with understanding, hey, with my iPhone or my Android, my camera on my phone, I now know when I see this what that means in a gear system or on a TrackMan or whatever it may be, and based on what I need to work on.
And like you said earlier, the
that's good or
apps
bad,
on our
and that gives
phones
me
are getting so
guardrails
much
to get
better that it's really starting to bridge the gap, but you still need that starting point.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you need to be able to check it. And I think having a system like Gears,
Right, that's a great way to
just
say it. Yep.
quality control it as it were, right? Yeah, because the apps are getting better. Particularly the rotation is getting there. But I think to know truly what is good and what is what, and then have that quantitatively verified, and then being able to take that home with you with DIY tools,
such a good
to
point.
Continue to get better is hugely valuable. So.
This is fun. This is all I
I've
do all
taken
day.
too much of your time, Mike.
We're either talking to you or
Although I
talking
could
to
go for
Sean on
another
the
2
phone.
hours here,
Just
but
golf nerd now.
this is a blast. This is awesome. So, everyone, if you want to go check out what Mike and Sean are doing, athleticmotiongolf.com, Athletic Motion Golf on YouTube. We're gonna put everything
It's probably hard
in
to
the
get
show
away
notes.
from
Where
us at
else
this
can
point.
we find you guys, Mike?
Instagram. I even think we're TikToking, and anywhere you can watch videos. No, they will not let me do that.
Are you dancing on TikTok now? No, the views didn't support you dancing, huh? Oh man, cool. Well, we'll definitely all that'll be in the show notes for all you guys. Go check them out. Sounds like do have some open spots here the rest of the year to get down there and work with Mike and Sean. Would highly recommend it. Tio from our side of one of our students that I've helped since he was 12 got a ton out of it. Would suggest it for all you guys too. So
These
Mike,
are always
thanks
fun,
so much
Chris.
for hanging
Thanks for
out with me
having
today,
me.
man. It's been a blast. I'm sure we'll do it again. Cool. And everyone else, thanks for hanging out with us here on the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. And we'll catch you on the next episode.